What's up guys, welcome back to the shop and welcome back to another how-to video. Today with All Balls Racing, we're going to be working on a portion of your fuel system. More specifically, if you have a carbureted 2-stroke or a carbureted 4-stroke, we're going to go through two different ways you can either rebuild your own fuel valve or petcock or completely replace it. So hang in there, we're going to jump into it, rebuild a fuel system or a petcock together, and I'm going to highlight the other complete kit as well. Okay guys, here we are on the bench and we have both of our All Balls Racing rebuild kits. They both essentially do the same thing at the end of the day, but you have two different options. So if you're the type of person that likes to rebuild your own fuel cock, petcock, fuel valve, whatever you like to call it, there is one specific kit. And if you want to just eliminate the hassle of all that, they have yet another kit. This one completely replaces the entire petcock, comes with the new fuel line, all the mounting hardware, etc. Really cool. I don't think I've actually ever really gotten excited personally about rebuilding a petcock, but today and after opening this kit, I'm pretty stoked. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. We're going to go ahead and start with the full rebuild of your own fuel valve or petcock first, and then we're going to jump into this other kit that is complete, fuel hose, fuel valve, everything. As you can see, I have two CR250 tanks here. This worked out quite well for me today. We're going to go ahead and rebuild and install, and then install on the other tank both of these kits. So let's jump into it. All right, so as promised, let's get into our first kit. This is the kit that is going to allow you to rebuild your own petcock, the one you already own. So let's go over the tools you need, what comes in the kit, and then the job itself. So the first thing is you're already going to own. You're going to have the core of your fuel valve. You're going to have a couple of mounting washers for this assembly here. You'll of course have the steel front plate for your fuel valve, the filter for the fuel valve, and then your on-off valve itself. So that is what you already own is comprised of, and these are the guts of it. This is what comes in the kit. So we'll set this aside for now, jump into the kit itself. So as mentioned, all this comes in one quick, easy, convenient All Balls Racing kit. I've always used these. I really like these a lot, and my favorite part, even though it sounds kind of silly, are the screws right here. I'm a big finished product person, and I really like that it comes with the screws. That's kind of a big deal for me, even though it's on the outside of what is essentially doing all the fuel control inside the petcock. Good job, All Balls. So basically, you will get your main seal here. This is going to go behind the front plate and fuel valve. You have a plastic washer, so to speak. This is just going to help things keep from sticking. They allow your valve to slide when you operate it on and off. Really nice. This portion here is a spring that keeps tension against the valve and the inside of the body itself on the gasket so it doesn't leak. And then you have another little O-ring that seals the fuel cock or petcock to the tank itself. Real simple, real easy to install, real affordable. Really awesome. I like this kit a lot, as I mentioned. So we'll bring all of our components back over, our original components. Now, another great perk of this kit is that if you are restoring a bike, which is what we do here at MX Revival, we have the opportunity to get the guts kit only, this kit that we're looking at right now. And then I have the ability to completely demo the old unit, vapor blast it so that it looks really nice. And in the case of our steel components here, we also re-zinc plate these. These are usually high-end customer rebuilds, giveaway bikes, things like that. So we get to break down each component and get real down to the nitty-gritty. So this is a cool kit for that. Now you may not have the time for that or want to do it, but this is how this kit works. We're going to install it right now. You're going to need a number 2 JIS screwdriver and a little bit of assembly grease, and that's about it. You don't need to use this specific type of grease, or really any grease at all, but it will help things a lot. So if you have some, I don't care where you get it from, this will help things start to move and also seal really well when you use this for the very first time before fuel passes through it. First things first, you need your core or the body of your petcock here, and we're going to install our first seal. I may use the term seal and gasket interchangeably. I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit of our grease to this here, just to get it to not only hang into the body, make it a little bit sticky, but also this will help seal everything when this operates for the first time before there's fuel in it. All right, we've got our seal lubed up. Never a bad idea to also have a little bit of contact cleaner or brake cleaner around as well to keep your hands clean. Maybe you don't care, but in the case of the build style I mentioned, full rebuilds, high-end stuff, I like to keep any oil and grease I can off of the parts until they are released into the wild, where the owner can do whatever he or she would like to. Next up, we're going to install our seal. You guys can see there are basically 2 posts inside of here that are going to help center it. It also doesn't matter which way this goes. You have 4 holes in it, and you can just land those 2 posts on any of the 2 holes that you choose. It should line right up, no problem. So once you put that seal in there, this is what it will look like. Now your next step is going to be to actually install the on-off valve, like so. It's going to sit right on top. Then you're going to want to go ahead and install your plastic washer. You may be able to see it has 2 notches in it. I'll install it on the on-off valve and show you why those are there. If you're able to see those 2 notches on this bad boy, they kind of help keep it locked in place onto these 2 ridges. Let's see, one here and one here on the other side. So that's all those are for. It's going to be pretty obvious when you put it on exactly where they go. After that, you can take your spring, slide it over as well. Now you have your on-off valve, you've got your plastic washer, and then you have your spring. And you can follow all of that up with your steel plate that goes on the front like so. So basically remember, metal on metal, the spring against this plate here. Now if you like, you can also put a little bit of grease, assembly grease, around the edges of this valve here. That'll help get it spinning for the first time. You can actually see the channel that the fuel travels in. When you turn this a specific way, it allows the upper and lower holes to unify, for lack of a better description, and allows fuel to pass through. Now that you have all your washers and items in order from the rebuild kit with the fuel on-off valve here, you can just go ahead and lay all that on top of the body itself and get ready to install your screws. I've got a screw on the end of my screwdriver here, and sometimes with a fastener this small, you might want to use some thread locker. In this case, it's not totally necessary because of the spring pressure held against this front steel plate. So you can do whatever you'd like. You can add a little bit of assembly lube to the threads, or you can add a little bit of thread locker. They both do the opposite thing. Just pick your poison, and that spring is going to do all the work for you inside here anyways. Go ahead and snug them down evenly back and forth until this plate has been seated. You also want to be mindful of not getting the stops on the fuel valve caught under the stops on the steel plate. So make sure that's oriented properly, and then go ahead and continue to tighten. Worst case, you just back these screws off a little bit and try again, no big deal. All right, that's it. We're seated. Now you can just test to make sure this thing slides through. This is where that assembly grease or lube is really going to help this thing start moving for the first time. It's got a nice, tight feel to it. Not too wallowed out, but it also slides really well thanks to that plastic washer and the assembly lube. Now the last step in this procedure would be to install your filter. Some of these are going to be staked into the body itself, and they're not going to come out like that. In the case of this Honda, this one was removable. We were able to clean it really well after we vapor blast the body itself, make sure there's no debris in here. Now this O-ring in the kit is actually going to help keep that filter captive. There is a shoulder, let's see if I can show that to you, that is below the aluminum body here, like so. You guys can see that shoulder kind of disappears. It's flush with the body. And this O-ring is a little bit wider than that shoulder, obviously, but tight enough to where it actually won't come off the bottom, and so that will help retain it. This might be a little unnerving at first, where you think it's going to float away into your fuel tank, but this will all hold together nicely like so. If you'd like, and I do like, also put a little bit of that assembly grease or lube on this O-ring as well. Again, just to help with that initial seal up against the fuel tank itself. We'll take our O-ring, slide it back over our filter here, get my hands clean, and then drop it back in. That is a freshly rebuilt Petcock for your carbureted dirt bike. It's super easy. It's all in one kit. It takes about 5 minutes, and every single thing you need is in there. Love it. All right guys, it is time to install your freshly rebuilt Petcock. I burned you on a tool. You need an 8mm ratchet, an 8mm box end wrench, whatever you have that will get the job done with the bolts that I had to supply, because unlike the other kit we're about to get into, this one does not come with the bolts. So maybe you have the bolts that you were already using before you pulled this out. Totally fine. If you want something fresh, you're not going to get those bolts in this kit. So excited to show you the other one. Let's go ahead and drop that sucker into this freshly flushed CR250 tank. All right guys, real easy. You just take your setup, drop it in the tank. That O-ring is going to go ahead and seal inside that recess right there, as you can see. Then you've got these washers here. These are Honda OEMs rezinked, like we talked about. Get them set up and ready to go. And then the next thing to do would be to install your bolts. Now, like I said, these don't come in the kit. Now, before we install these bolts, I do like to add a little bit of assembly lube to them as well. And reason being, maybe you guys have experienced this, maybe not in particular with your Petcock, although it could certainly happen, but usually with a radiator shroud, your plastic. The tank utilizes these brass fasteners above as well. If the bike is old, you go to loosen these up and you can't. They get corroded, they get stuck, and then the fastener or the brass insert just spins behind your plastic. Very frustrating. That is due to dissimilar metals or electrolysis, where you have two different types of alloys or metals against each other. So applying some of this assembly lube before you zap these in is going to help keep these from corroding, and then your plastics and your fuel valve are always going to come out when you need them to. So hopefully that's a helpful tip. Go ahead and grab your fuel valve. Make sure you pick up the washers that you dumped on the table, and I'll go one by one. Got our new bolt. Start that sucker. Just loose for now, so you can do the other side. As a rule of thumb, just never tighten anything that has more than one bolt all at once. Just get everything installed loosely first and then tighten up at the end. That will help us make sure that our O-ring is actually in the pocket and all that. That's pretty much it, guys. Now you just tighten this up and you are ready to send some nice clean fuel through your freshly rebuilt Petcock. Bike is happy, carburetor's happy. That's a done deal right there. Light torque, just past a hand cinch. It's like 7 foot-pounds, so don't go crazy on her. And that's it. All right, it's time for the second kit. We've got another gas tank here. Get our new kit in front of us, and I'm going to show you again what comes in it and something really interesting. I found out about this very oddly shaped fuel line at first because I have 3 or 4 CR250s here right now. Some are complete. I looked at this and thought to myself, what are they doing? This is not going to fit a CR250. Then I went and mocked it up on one of our complete bikes. This shape is actually brilliant. So good job, All Balls Racing. Again, I'm going to show you guys why in just a sec, or explain it. So you will receive this particular kit, complete Petcock, ready to go. All the fasteners you see here in this particular box. This guy even came on a little cushy bed. Look at that. They really cared about that guy. So pretty cool. It's packaged like it's the freaking Queen of England or something. So this is our next kit. Like I said, completely turnkey. We don't need to do any of that rebuilding that we just did on the other tank's Petcock. The sucker's ready to go. It also came with those washers, the ones that I had gotten rezinked from our OEM stash on the other tank. Very nice. Also, as mentioned, I had to go dig up some hardware for our other rebuild kit because it didn't have it like this one does. I also like the black zinc. That's really cool. I am a fan of hardware in some cases matching the body of whatever it is being assembled against. So black tank, black bolts. I think that's really cool. Of course, you get the O-ring to seal this sucker, just like the other one. You guys remember that. And then you even get the clamps for either end of the fuel line here. One on the tank side, one on the carburetor side. So there's no rebuilding here. What you see is what you get. This sucker bolts on. If you've got a crusty, rusty old fuel valve and you don't want to rebuild like we just did a second ago, you just want to get back on the track or the trail like as fast as you can, and then also have your old parts and body as a spare, maybe for later, then this would be the kit you would want right here. Another thing I really like about this kit is that, as you can see, I went out of my way to replate the steel plate on the other OEM Petcock. This one looks just as good, and I didn't have to do that. So do these washers. I went ahead and put a magnet on them earlier to see if they were aluminum or steel. They're steel, and so therefore they have also a nice coat of zinc on them, just like the steel plate here. And I think the last thing, though I could have done a little bit better on the homework here, this complete kit costs about the same as the OEM Honda Petcock by itself. So when you're hunting on an OEM microfish and you want to buy parts, you got to buy them onesie twosie. You would get this by itself, you would get this by itself, you would get that, and that by itself. So it adds up where you can just purchase this one All Balls Racing kit and get everything, and it will cost less and be just as effective, and maybe even better, because I'm going to explain what this fuel line does when you mock it up, or what it will look like when it's on, that I thought was really cool. So let's go ahead and drop this thing into our other CR250 gas tank. All right, here we go, tank number 2. I could do a better job of tapping these with a tap real quick or a thread chaser. There's a little bit of Loctite or thread locker in there from somebody else. For the sake of this video, I'll deconstruct this later and keep it moving. So again, we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of our assembly grease to that O-ring. That was a little fat, you don't need that much, but go ahead and smear that around like so. Go ahead and install your complete Petcock assembly. So freaking easy, ready to go. A washer, and then remember to lubricate these bolts if you'd like. I mentioned I'll be taking this apart in a second so I can clean out those threads. So for now, I'm not going to put any assembly lube on these bolts. Got our other side. Couldn't be easier. Pretty much done, guys. Let's see. Yeah, this guy definitely needs a clean out. That is a little draggy there on that particular bolt. So if it's giving you a fight or a fuss, don't power through it. This is good enough for the purpose of our video here before I clean it out. And this one's gliding real nice. So a little snug, again, not too much, and that sucker's ready. It's a done deal. It's all in one kit. You need one, go get it. So there you have it. That is another install on tank number 2. 2 completely different ways to do this job. One more convenient than the other, but not by much. So if you guys have never rebuilt one of these before, I hope you try it. Working on your dirt bike is super fun, super easy. It gives you a chance to really get in there, do the nitty-gritty stuff. Or like I said, if you're pinched on time, get one of these. It'll save you some money. It looks like OEM. It's going to function just as good as OEM as well. Let's talk about that hose real quick. Found it very interesting. Like I said, considering how goofy the shape of this thing is. All right, guys, so the hose. It's shaped like a U. What's up with that? Like I said, I mocked this up to one of the bikes and I was like, oh, that's pretty smart actually. When this is affixed to the fuel valve in the tank, and we'll mock that up in a second, and that's gonna obviously be pointing straight down here on your tank. This will go on, and this thing, you're like, oh, okay, well the carburetor isn't over here under my tank. What happens is, that goes on your fuel tank like so. This bends and hooks up to your carburetor like that. So if you could picture this tank up here, plugged into the tank, has to bend and hook up to the carburetor inlet down here. This fuel line actually gets tucked up back behind the frame rail, more or less, or close to it on your CR250 in particular, and gets up and out of the way of going along the front of your cylinder. So you get a little bit more access and a little bit more protection from this hose due to the shape of it. So must have been intentional. Good job, guys. I like it. It's too bad the OEM Honda fuel line, which is probably overpriced in comparison to this, isn't shaped like this. I really like it. Now the last thing this kit comes with is the 2 clamps. Since our tanks aren't on the bikes yet, I will go ahead and just demonstrate how they work. You got your clip here. Another thing you'd have to buy solo. You can squeeze those ears. It's a spring, and get those over the end of your hose like so. If you need needle nose pliers, that can help. It does kind of hurt your fingers a little bit. I'll try not to be a baby on film. Like so. So there you go. Same thing on the other side. Now when it comes to sliding these over the end of your inlet and your carburetor, that might be an extra handy time for some needle nose pliers to grab the ends of these and force it over. You can also put some assembly lube on this outlet right here and the inlet of your carburetor. This hose will slide on like butter with some of that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Okay guys, that's a wrap. Thanks to All Balls Racing. I've got two CR250s that are just a little bit closer to running than they were before we started today's video. I hope you guys learned something new. I hope you found the video informative. Like I said, there are some features in each of these kits that allow you to either do a deep dive, which I like, or let you just bolt your kit on and go. And that hose is brilliant. I know it's just a hose, but I thought that was really cool. So guys, check out All Balls Racing. You're already here if you're watching this video. Get the kit you need and get back to the track or the trail. I'll catch you in the next one.